You know what's great about single-player games? Nobody's screaming slurs in your headset. PC has the biggest game library, the best performance if you've got the hardware, and you're not waiting for a remaster 5 years later to play at decent frame rates. These are the best PC games available in 2026. Let's dive in. Doom: The Dark Ages is a prequel to 2016 Doom and Doom Eternal, swapping the sci-fi setting for a dark medieval fantasy, where you're fighting hell in castles and ancient battlefields. It hit 3 million players in its first week, 7 times faster than Doom Eternal, though that's partly because it launched day one on Xbox Game Pass. The combat's different from previous Doom games. Instead of hyper-mobile acrobatics, you're playing as an iron tank with enhanced melee options and the shield saw, which lets you parry, block, and attack in one move. You can pilot a cybernetic dragon and a 30-story Atlan mech during certain sections too. The game leans harder into storytelling this time. More cutscenes, more character development, more lore about the Doomslayer's origins. If you love Doom Eternal speed, this might feel slower at first, but once the combat clicks, it's just as satisfying. Personally, I think Doom Eternal is better, but you guys let me know what you think. Wasteland 3 is a post-apocalyptic CRPG set in frozen Colorado. The Desert Rangers are desperate. After nuking their own base in Wasteland 2 to stop a rogue AI, Arizona's running out of food and water. The Patriarch of Colorado offers a deal. Capture his 3 rebellious children who are trying to overthrow him. The Rangers send 50 people to Colorado. Almost all of them die in an ambush. You're one of the survivors trying to complete the mission, while figuring out if you should even trust the Patriarch in the first place. The combat's turn-based and tactical. Think XCOM, but with more dark humor and more consequences. Those who were once allies will turn on you by the end of the game, due to decisions you made early on. The game had some rough edges at launch and gets overlooked a lot. Characters bugging out, sound looping, but most of that's been patched. The co-op mode lets you play the whole campaign with a friend, kind of like Divinity 2. If you want a CRPG that respects your time and has a lot of history and lore, Wasteland is a great series.
When you're done, come on in and see us.
The time has come. Sephiroth!
It's the second part of Square Enix's FF7 Remake trilogy, picking up right after Remake, with Cloud and the gang escaping Midgar to chase down Sephiroth across the planet. The combat's a mix of real-time action, with new synergy abilities that let party members combo attack together. The game was nominated for 7 awards at the Game Awards 2024, including Game of the Year, and won Best Score in Music. The PC version is of course superior. NVIDIA DLSS support for better frame rates, and configurable texture quality that goes beyond what the PS5 could handle.
So it's my turn?
7 interconnected regions including Grasslands, Junin, Corel, Gungaga, and Cosmo Canyon, all explorable with minimal loading screens. If you love the original, or just want a JRPG that respects your time while delivering a heartfelt story, this is it. You just can't beat the soundtrack.
Time is against us.
Hades 2 has you playing as Millenoi, Zagreus' sister, trying to take down Kronos, the Titan of Time, who escaped the underworld and imprisoned her family. Supergiant somehow made a sequel better than the original, which is really saying something. More environments, enemies, and more fully voiced characters.
Lord Zeus already sought you out,
Millenoi moves differently than Zagreus. She's got spells, new weapons, like the Moonstone Axe and the Sister Blades, and a combat flow that feels faster and way more aggressive. This time you're not escaping the underworld, you're diving deeper into it, then ascending to the surface to fight in places Zagreus never reached. The art's still hand-painted and gorgeous, and the roguelike loop is just as addictive. New mechanics, like incantations, let you alter the Crossroads hub, and the Arcana card system adds permanent upgrades that carry across all your attempts. If you liked Hades, play this. If you skipped it, start here anyway.
He's loath to ask for favors is all.
Now let's quickly talk about instant gaming, the best way to get your games for less money than you would from retail. Whether it's new releases, bestsellers, or upcoming pre-orders, you'll find them at a discount for PC, PlayStation, and more. Unlike shady key marketplaces, instant gaming only sells keys from authorized resellers. so you're getting legit products at great prices. Plus, with a top Trustpilot rating and 24/7 customer support, you can buy with confidence. Personally, I've been using their service for a while, and always had a great experience. And that's why we're happy to partner with them. Check out Instant Gaming through the link in the description and start saving today.
Do I look like I need saving?
What secrets are hiding here in Blake Manor?
Now for a pretty cool game you might not have heard of. It reminds me of the old school adventure titles on PC. The Séance of Blake Manor launched 2025 from Spooky Doorway, the studio behind The Dark Side Detective. You play as private investigator Declan Ward in 1897 Ireland, hired to find Evelyn Dean, a woman who vanished from Blake Manor 2 days before a grand séance on All Hallows Eve. The game's inspired by Irish mythology and Victorian-era spiritualism, presented in a beautiful comic book art style. You got 3 in-game days to investigate, interview suspects, gather evidence in your journal, and figure out what the hell is going on before the séance rips open the veil between worlds. It's got a 95% positive rating on Steam and received 10 out of 10 scores from multiple outlets. Critics are praising how it challenges and educates in equal measure. Time management matters. Every action you take advances the clock, so you need to be strategic about where you go and who you talk to. If you like Return of the Obra Dinn or detective games that trust your intelligence, this one you'll love. Pillars of Eternity is Obsidian's love letter to Baldur's Gate and Planescape, but it's way more than just nostalgia bait. You play as a watcher, someone who can see into people's souls and past lives, investigating why humans in the Direwood are being born hollowborn, meaning they have no souls, which is a pretty dark premise for a video game looking back on it. But hey, this one's better than the sequel in my opinion. It's more like the games that inspired it. The writing is dense, philosophical, and wordy. The real-time with pause combat is tactical and punishing. It can get a bit overwhelming in the late game, but I think that's an issue for all real-time with pause titles. You need to position your party, manage crowd control, and understand how different damage types work against different armor. A very cool game for any isometric RPG fan. Tyranny launched in 2016 from Obsidian, and the premiere alone makes it worth playing. You're on the side that already won. Evil triumphed. Kyros, the Overlord, rules everything and you're a fate binder, basically a judge enforcing the tyrant's law across conquered territories. You start with power and resources, then decide if you're going to prop up the regime or tear it down from the inside. The game uses a skill-based system instead of classes, so you can build your character however you want without getting locked into bad decisions. Before the game even starts, you play through a board game-like conquest mode, where you make choices about how the world was conquered. And I personally think this puts a lot of players off, because it's not particularly exciting. Most people just want to jump into an RPG rather than playing Total War style map chess. But hey, those decisions shape how NPCs react to you, and which factions you can actually ally with. The writing refuses to make things simple. There's no clear good path, just varying degrees of compromise. It's shorter than most CRPGs, but way more replayable. If you're one of the lucky ones who played it, let me know in the comments what you thought. I'll be honest, I'm a huge CRPG fan, and so you'll probably find a few on this list.
This is the Dark Lady's domain.
Baldur's Gate 3 is the cream of the crop. Launched in 2023, and it's still dominating conversations years later. Larian took D&D 5th edition rules and made one of the most ambitious RPGs. 17,000 ending variations, fully voice-acted dialogue, and a level of freedom that makes other RPGs look scripted by comparison. You're infected with a mind flayer tadpole, and racing against time to remove it before you transform. The setup's simple, but everything that follows is chaos. Want to talk your way out of combat? Go for it. Want to shove enemies off a cliff? Do it. Want to seduce a vampire or a druid who turns into a bear? The game won't stop you. Larian's still releasing patches in 2026, even though they've moved on to their next game, Divinity. The fact that BG3 set a new standard for what CRPGs can be is undeniable. If you haven't played it yet, you're missing the best RPG of the decade. and a part of history.
Squeezing tight.
A whole city block to carve your path.
Disco Elysium is a chill game you can play on most PCs, and it's one of the best written and different feeling games ever made. You're a detective who wakes up with zero memory, a destroyed hotel room, and a corpse that needs solving. The twist? You solve crimes by arguing with your own brain. Oh man, the amount of copycats that have come out since shows how different this one is. There are 24 different skills that represent parts of your psyche: logic, empathy, electrochemistry, inland empire. And they all talk to you constantly. They bicker, they lie, they give you terrible advice. Your ancient reptilian brain will tell you to punch someone. Your rhetoric skill will argue politics. Sometimes you'll fail skill checks by being too intelligent. The writing refuses to hold back. It's weird, funny, and unapologetically dense. The only thing I will say is that there's a lot of reading. It's not going to be for everyone. The Final Cut version added full voice acting though, which brought the already incredible dialogue to life. The game sold over 5 million copies and won multiple Game of the Year awards. There's barely any combat. This is all dialogue, investigation, and existential dread. If you want a detective RPG that treats you like an adult, this is a very cool game.
If you could only find your gun.
Titanfall 2's campaign is still one of the tightest FPS experiences you can play. You're Jack Cooper, a grunt who gets paired with BT-7274, a Titan, after your mentor dies. The bond between pilot and Titan drives the whole story. Somehow Respawn made you care about a giant robot suit. The campaign's short, about 6 hours, but every level does something different, solving environmental puzzles while fighting in 2 timelines. The movement feels incredible. Wall running, slide hopping, grappling hooks, and then you call down your Titan and the combat shifts to massive mech battles. The game launched between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which killed it in sales. It peaked at 40,564 concurrent players on Steam when it launched, which is pretty low for a blockbuster game. But hey, now it's getting flowers, and if you missed this because of the terrible release timing, play it. The campaign alone is worth it. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2: Heart of Chernobyl, finally released in 2025 after a lot of delays. And it kinda shows, but still it's atmospheric as the originals, and a game you should definitely try out. You're exploring the Chernobyl exclusion zone after a second explosion in 2006, scavenging for artifacts while avoiding mutants, anomalies, and other desperate stalkers trying to survive. The game sold 1 million copies in 2 days, which is wild considering development was constantly disrupted by the issues in Ukraine. GSC Game World had to relocate their team while making this. The zone feels massive and oppressive. You're managing hunger, radiation, weapon condition, and wondering if that shimmer in the air is going to vaporize you. It launched with bugs, but GSC has been patching them aggressively, and now is the time to pick it up. The atmosphere is what makes it special. Exploring abandoned Soviet facilities, trading with other stalkers at campfires, getting caught in a mission and sprinting for shelter. Definitely not an easy game either, which will appeal to a lot of players. Let me know what you think of this one.
Black and white.
It's a charade, V.
Cyberpunk 2077's 2.0 update completely overhauled the police system, perk trees, cyberware, and combat AI. Then Phantom Liberty dropped with Idris Elba as Solomon Reed. The changes are massive. Vehicle combat lets you shoot from cars now. Police actually chase you with roadblocks and max tac units instead of just appearing out of nowhere. Cyberware got redesigned so armor comes from implants instead of clothing, meaning you can finally dress how you want. The skill trees were rebuilt from scratch to feel meaningful instead of bloated. The only thing that is still a bit lackluster, in my opinion, is the crafting system. Phantom Liberty has to be one of the greatest expansions ever. It raises the level cap to 60, and adds the Relic skill tree, with new abilities tied to the biochip in V's head. In the update they added a metro system, car races, and romantic hangouts with your partners. Night City feels like a living, breathing dystopia, and if you haven't played Cyberpunk 2077 yet, or stopped playing early, now's the time to jump in again.
Attention all Dogtown residents.
Is this true?
Clair Obscur Expedition 33 launched in April 2025, and it's one of the biggest surprises of the year. This is Sandfall Interactive's debut game, a turn-based RPG set in the dark fantasy version of France, where a paintress wakes up every year, paints a number on a monolith, and everyone that age dies. The premise is wild. She's been counting down year by year, and tomorrow she's painting 33. You're part of Expedition 33, the group trying to stop her before it's too late. The combat mixes turn-based strategy with real-time mechanics. You dodge, parry, and counter in real time during your turn, chain combos by nailing attack rhythms, and use free aim to target weak points. The game's getting called a masterpiece by critics, with some saying it revolutionizes turn-based combat. The voice cast includes Charlie Cox, Andy Serkis, and Ben Starr. It was on Game Pass day one. If you've been waiting for a turn-based RPG that feels fresh, this is it. Let's go. Now for an awesome strategy game that's basically Commandos meets the Old West. Desperados. From the moment you step off the train into that sun-baked frontier, you know nothing's going to go smoothly. You're in charge of a ragtag squad, each with their own quirks, and every mission is a puzzle that'll humiliate you if you're even a little bit sloppy.
I see you, asshole!
The game is pretty tense, I can't lie. Timing is everything. Lure a guard into a saloon, set off a distraction, or sprint across the street praying no one sees you. When it works, it feels brilliant. When it fails, you'll curse, laugh, and start the level over. Every map has a dozen ways to tackle it, which is perfect, because sometimes you just want to blaze through, guns blazing, and sometimes creeping through shadows is the only way not to get caught. Everything feels great in this modern release. If you like tactical strategy that makes you sweat, grin, and occasionally want to smash a mouse or controller, Desperados III is pure isometric gold. Fallout 4 is a must-replay if you're currently watching the shows. You're a pre-war parent frozen in a vault for 200 years. You watch as your spouse gets murdered and your son stolen, and you wake up alone in a world you don't recognize. Fallout 4 dumps you into the Commonwealth as a relic. Everyone you knew is dead. Your son is gone, and the Wasteland isn't particularly interested in your tragic backstory. The settlement building system divides people, but personally I think it's a great time sink. Some love turning the Commonwealth into a network of fortified bases. Others just ignore it and shoot things. Both styles work. It can be a bit annoying how it always forces you to help settlements constantly with repetitive, radiant quests, but the gunplay is way better than 3 or New Vegas. Shooting feels like an FPS instead of a janky RPG pretending to be a shooter. Weapon modding adds depth even if the dialogue system got dumped down to 4 vague options. Main quest about finding your son has some genuine emotional weight. Railroad, Brotherhood, Institute, Minutemen. You pick a side and most of the others become hostile. Companions are well written though, especially Nick Valentine and Piper. Going from Lost Vault Dweller to General of the Minutemen, or whatever faction you side with, works better than expected. Some people gripe about the dialogue choices being non-existent, but the game still works well in my view. Another Bethesda game, Starfield, has been getting a bit more love recently, which is nice. The open world or open universe isn't seamless like, say, No Man's Sky, but it works. Land somewhere random, poke around, find an abandoned lab full of loot and questionable diary entries, steal everything that shines, and blast off like a cosmic raccoon. That loop is addictive. Starfield's still not perfect, but it's interesting. A massive sandbox for stories you make yourself. The game was basically Bethesda's White Whale. They trademarked the name back in 2013, and then disappeared into a bunker for a decade to build it. First IP in 25 plus years. Todd Howard pacing around the office going, what if Skyrim, but NASA? And everyone nodded hard enough to get whiplash. They built new tech, new engine, new everything, which explains why the launch felt like a toddler taking its first steps. Wobbly, charming, and occasionally face-planting into a loading screen. But over time, with updates, crewmates, city expansions, and actual reasons to land on planets, it's slowly turning a corner.
Copy. Moving on target.
I've gone with the most intense strategy game out there, and they don't get much more intense than XCOM 2. The game is unforgiving, and that's what makes it so addictive. Every battle feels like a high-stakes gamble. where your troops' lives hang in the balance and one wrong move can spell disaster. You need to make tactical decisions in the heat of battle, but it's also about managing resources, planning long term, and making sure your squad survives long enough to turn the tide against a global alien threat. The beauty of XCOM 2 lies in its unpredictability. No two campaigns are ever alike. Your soldiers grow over time, developing skills and even bonds with one another. But death is permanent. When one of your best soldiers fall, it hits hard, especially since you've spent hours leveling them up, giving them character. The tension this creates is palpable, and it makes every victory feel earned. Honestly, for me, the permadeath is what makes it so great. You even have Iron Man modes and stuff like that to make it even more nail-biting. This one's a classic. If you're still watching, you're a legend. Some of you are subscribed, and that honestly means a lot. Thank you. And if you're not, and you're into this kind of laid-back gaming content, maybe hit that button. No pressure, but it really helps the channel grow. Okay, now for one of my all-time favorites. There are great RPGs, and then there's Mass Effect 2. This game pioneered modern RPGs. It's a game where every squad mate has depth, and by the time you hit the end game, you're fully invested in your team's survival. The main story alone is fantastic. The real magic is in the loyalty missions. Each one tells its own compelling, often emotional story, making your crew feel like real people rather than just RPG party members. And if you want the true Mass Effect experience, you're replaying this game to see every outcome, every dialogue choice, and every possible way the story can unfold, especially if you're importing your save into Mass Effect 3.
Chased us over the mountains, they ran us into the sea.
I see.
This is really a game like no other. Combine a moving, epic story with GTA-style gunplay, and you've got a winner. The start of the game might be a bit slow for some, but it's a game that gets better the longer you play it. As Arthur, you're caught between loyalty to your gang and a growing sense that the world around you is changing in ways that you can't control. The story is about survival, morality, and the consequences of a life lived outside the law. The level of detail is ridiculous, from the snow-covered mountains to the swamps and prairies. There's always something to do, whether it's hunting animals, helping strangers, or robbing trains. And it's all integrated into the world in a way that makes everything feel seamless. Even the way trees and objects react is realistic. Rockstar left no stone unturned. The combat is gritty, but for me, it's a little boring compared to GTA. But if you want something a little more chill, this is definitely a good change of pace. It's the quieter moments that stand out. You can spend hours just exploring, watching sunsets, or bonding with your horse. The game gives you the freedom to be an outlaw or try to change your ways, and every action has consequences. It's a game that doesn't rush you. It lets you live in the world at your own pace. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a must-play for anyone who wants to experience one of the most immersive open-world games ever made. Alright, that wraps up the heavy hitters you need to keep on your radar. Subscribe for the best PC games list, and I'll see you next time.